We're set for the second week of Utah Spring Ball. So what should we expect? Let's discuss on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen every single day. We are available on all platforms, including YouTube and wherever you may get your podcasts. If it's your first time listening to our show, make sure you like and subscribe. Love interacting with all of you in the YouTube comments, as well as on social media, where you can follow our show at Locked On Utes on X. Today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers can join today, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Excited to be joined by Alex Napoles of KSL Sports to break down what we should expect to see from week 2 of Utah spring football. And I just think the thing this week is, look, hoping, Utah just in helmets for most of last week too. So like starting to put the pads on a little bit more, hitting and things of that nature. But I think what I really am excited about in spring 2 is just like week 1. And I'm sure they've been doing some before even, right? But like so much install, like now, like just continuing guys to get more comfortable, go live. The least shocking thing of week 1 was like Dorian Singer being really good. It's like, I know that USC, it didn't work amazingly, but like when you've had 1,000-yard season in receiving, like you're pretty good at catching balls. So I feel like he was going to be pretty good, but I'm excited for some of the other guys, the freshmen, to continue to come along, and Isaac Wilson too. So all of the newcomers, I feel like they'll only continue to get better as spring ball kind of wears on. So that's what I'm really looking forward to seeing to this point, Alex.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned Dorian Singer, because he's been kind of the talk of the town a little bit up there at the U. Being out there for some of the spring practices last week, there was a lot of conversations where you had people like Cam, people like Brant, who have been with the team forever, giving really high praise to Dorian, who's come in and they've already kind of built that relationship. They're already starting to build that bond. And so Dorian Singer's been, from what it looks like and from what it sounds like, he's been a great addition so far to that offense.
He definitely has, and I think it's going to be fun to see him and Cam's chemistry continue to grow. I mean, that was something he even mentioned. Like, me and Cam have been throwing for like a month and a half, which I think was just awesome to see as well. And Alex, I think you mentioned something that's also been really fun to watch about spring ball is Cam to Brant has also been a factor for Utah. What was it like just being able to watch those guys out there, and kind of what were the vibes on the sidelines and even amongst just the other media members seeing that connection back to work?
It was awesome because they had the viewing period, the first spring practice, and they were running like some red zone drills. And as soon as media walked out there, the very first thing that happens is Cam to Brant into the end zone. Brant just rises up, brings it down, and it's just like old times where Cam and Brant are hooking up. And so it was really awesome to just kind of see that, especially after them, not playing last year.
No, it was such a... you still look back to last year. You think like, what could have been? Yes, it would have been hard for Utah to do all the things just because how good the Pac-12 was, but for them to not even get a chance is where it still hurts. But I mean, still, having those guys back is going to make a world of difference for this Utah offense. So that's something I'm excited about. Cam just continuing to make plays and get more comfortable is something that obviously we're still looking forward to seeing with spring ball, seeing the offensive and defensive lines I mentioned with the pads coming on more, like those guys get after it. Like, how's Utah going to run the ball? Well, right. Everyone mentioned how explosive Mitchell was looking. Is the offensive line going to make open holes for him? That's a dang good defensive line. Like, if the offensive line, to me, like if Witt comes out of these spring practices and it's like our offensive line needs to be better up front, I'm not that concerned, because it's like they're going against a top 5 rush defense that only has one guy not coming back, Jonah Ellis. And Jonah Ellis his absence will definitely hinder Utah's pass rush more than anything. Like, and he was a really good run defender, but like, I mean, when Connor O'Toole and Van Fillinger was out there too, I didn't feel like the Utah run defense was missing a beat. So I think with the pads coming on is something of that really added excitement. But especially after being up there, Alex, what's something you're really looking forward to about week 2 of spring ball?
Week 2, I'm looking at the safeties. There's Tao Johnson, Tao Johnson, excuse me. He was playing corner, and then he made that move over to safety. And Morgan Scally says that he's been leaps and bounds, looking fantastic so far in week 1 of spring ball. And there was a lot of question marks, coming into this season because of the loss of Bishop, because of the loss of Vaki, of kind of what that safety room was going to look like. But so far, between Richie and Johnson, sounds like that safety room's in good hands.
Very much so. Jonathan Hall, tremendous. Gilman's going to get up here soon, too, with he brings in the Stanford experience. That was something we spoke with Michelle Bodkin on yesterday's show about, too. Got to be feeling good about this this Utah defensive backfield. And, Alex, you mentioned you were up at spring ball, too, like gotten all the interviews and all things like that. Like, not just watching Singer, but then getting to talk with him as well after. What were some of your takeaways and your first introduction to the guy we assume is going to be Utah's leading receiver this coming season?
I think it's super important when, you have transfers and new guys coming in. It's super important to get them acclimated to Utah, to get them used to being in Utah, to get them wanting to be in Utah. And I feel like they've done a good job with Dorian so far as far as making him comfortable here. He's a guy who wants to be here. He wants to be here for that offense, for this team. And, that's just something that I think it not only culture wise is very good for Utah, but just having guys like that come into this team and be comfortable and wanting to be here. I think that speaks volumes for what they're going to do this season.
Definitely agree. And, one of the things that speaks volumes to what they could do this season, of course, is Cam Rising. What was the vibe just like with Cam back on the field, not just you guys watching, but the team as well?
Hey, everybody was happy. Everybody was super excited to have Cam back out there. There was one scramble where, Cam decided to run into the end zone and there was like one or two guys on the field that literally started yelling, "Don't touch him, don't touch him," as he was running into the end zone, obviously because they don't want to, re-aggravate the injury or anything. But it's, you talk to guys like Micah Bernard, you talk to to Brent Keithy, to the coaching staff, to Dorian Singer, who's just coming in. They have a lot of respect and a lot of love for Cam, and it's awesome to see. I think it just speaks to his leadership,
Definitely. And I'm curious for you, like just getting the chance to talk with him. It's been so long since we've heard of him. What was your biggest takeaway from his media scrum that you were a part of?
He's just excited to be back. He's just happy and excited to be back. And he made this comment where he said that there's still he came back because he feels like there's still a lot of meat left on the bones here in Utah. And I kind of like that because he's implying that his business here isn't done. He's a very competitive person. So he wants to be out there competing for that Big 12 championship. And he wants to be out there for an opportunity to play in the college football playoff. And I think that's just all good signs for Cam and him coming back, is he's already in that mentality that, hey, I'm here to win and I want to win with this team.
Definitely. And, you mentioned the point of meat being left on the bone too. I thought that was such an interesting statement by him because he's won 2 conference championships. He's been to 2 Rose Bowls, but when you're a competitor like Cam, you don't need much to motivate you. Oh, I can bring Utah the first ever Big 12 championship for them.
Yep.
I can take this team to the college football playoff. I can win a game in the college football playoff. And I'm sure with guys like Cam, I mean, like I said, you never know like what the goals are and being talked about and all stuff like that. I'm sure Cam's some of these guys at least must think about the opportunity they could potentially have to win a national championship, right? Like that would be tremendous, unlikely, all those things. But I mean, if there's anything we know about the level of a competitor that Cam Rising is, and just any elite competitor in anything, you tell the guy they can't do something, it's going to make them want to do it even more.
Exactly. And, when last season, when you're told, hey, you can't play this entire season because of the competitor that Cam is, I feel like that just motivated him a little bit more to not only return, but to come back and again, just having that hunger to want to compete for that Big 12 championship and even more.
Absolutely. And it's going to be great to see him get the opportunity to do so. We're going to continue to talk about the things we're most excited about for week 2 in Utah spring football in one moment. But first, I want to tell you all about one of the sponsors of today's episode of Locked On Utes, our friends at Nissan. This week's March Madness bracket highlight is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week, we're picking one of the teams that stand out, a team that's pushed it further than the rest, just like any of the all-new 2024 Nissan SUVs. These guys were able to take it to the next level. And let's talk about the Tennessee Volunteers. When you're talking about the Vols, they can only be described as the Pathfinder. They've been thrilling to watch and have really created a lane for themselves after claiming the top spot in the SEC. Yes, they fell in the tournament, but I mean, come on. SEC Player of the Year candidate Dalton Connect, or actually one Player of the Year, I believe, but Player of the Year overall candidate Dalton Connect, former Northern Colorado player as well, so shout out Big Sky, has carried the Vols all season and made them a team to watch in March. It's been tremendous to watch him to go to work, and you can check out the tremendous Pathfinder today. Take the Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Also want to talk to you all about another sponsor of our episode of Locked On Utes today. It's our friends at Amazon Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to the millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as the free and live TV. Whether you're in the opening weekend for baseball, college basketball tournaments, or you're just going to want to have a Fire TV to watch normal channels. Fire TV even recently created a Fire TV channel that delivers a constant supply of the latest videos from all your favorite sports fans, all for free. That includes all of us here at the Locked On Network and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences too. Fire TV channels lets you dive into all the games, analysis, highlights, and more. You can keep up to date on all the latest in the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and a lot more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, game, traveling, cooking videos. There's so much to check out with Fire TV, and go check out Fire TV type TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you really should. Trust me on this one. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Alex, coming in to talk about week 2 from Utah spring football, what to expect. As I mentioned, I think one of the biggest things is the physicality I hope to continue to see when you put the pads on for the offensive and defensive linemen. That's one position they're always going to hit a little bit like that, but until the pads come on, you can't really get to see. And whether it's a Caleb Lomu, Spencer Fano in year 2, seeing a guy like Coley continue to get more reps. And I think the offensive line, as I kind of mentioned in segment 1, they got a really great opportunity to get better because they're going to go against one of the best defensive units when it comes to stopping the run every single day.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, when the first week of spring practice, you don't have the pads on. You're not really going. You're not going fully at it, but then you put the pads on, and it turns into something completely different, as you were mentioning mentioned earlier. And so I think once the pads come on, especially that O line. Once you're going, like you mentioned, once you're going against that D line, you're only going to get better from there, and it's going to be awesome to see these younger guys like Fano, like Lomu, and a bunch of those guys on that line just continue to progressively get better as you're playing against one of the top D lines, not only in the Big 12 but probably around the country.
Yes, that's what is absolutely the case. And from a pass rush standpoint too, one-on-ones are something I always loved watching, and even back during my time playing, like I was something that's always fun. You get you excited about everything there. So I do think it's a great opportunity. Connor O'Toole, tremendous pass rusher. Van Fillinger, Junior Tafuna, not many bull rushes nastier than the one he's going to throw you. Same thing with the Samote Peppa, right? All those opportunities that the Utah offensive line is going to get to work into. And one thing I just think what's great about spring ball is the opportunities guys have to learn and grow from their mistakes. Like giving up a sack in spring ball right now doesn't hurt you. What does is when you do it in the fall. So learn from it. How did that guy beat you? How can you respond and do a better job? All of that is what's so great. There's nothing better than live game reps. Utah can't get those right now, but live reps with the pads on just in practice is the next best thing.
Oh, for sure. And I think one of the things that you know that a lot of the coaches were mentioning, and a lot of the the staff there was mentioning last week in the press conferences, was now is the moment to do that, to learn, make those mistakes, and so that way they can fix them there. And it sounds like a lot of the older guys who have been with the team for a while are making sure to take the younger guys under the wing and say, hey, this is how you were supposed to do it on this play, and then they'll run it back, do it again, and they'll be improving and learning by that. And it's all thanks to that veteran leadership that is instilled by the leaders on that team.
Yeah, absolutely the case. And you mentioned Kyle Whittingham. It's always interesting what he's willing to talk about, right? Talked about the offensive line, was willing to talk about Isaac Wilson already in the QB2 race. I thought it was a really interesting first media session for Kyle Whittingham. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I thought it was a Whittingham presser. He gave a lot, but he gave a little more. I thought he gave a little more, just a little. Yeah, a little more than he usually does.
Yeah.
And even I feel like even Andy Ludwig was a little bit more open too, and he kind of laid it out. He was like, "Hey, this is our number one, not only for quarterback but for running back. This is our number one. This is our number two. This is our number three." And he kind of went down that list and was like, these are the guys who are in the competition for the top spots. And so you kind of already have that idea of like what the depth chart's looking like this early in the spring.
Yeah, that's something that's really exciting too. And speaking of the depth chart, I already mentioned the quarterback depth chart. Isaac Wilson is a guy I'm just really excited to continue to get the reps. We already threw an interception during the open media availability, or maybe it was even during I just know he threw one during practice. I think Andy Ludwig brought that up too. Like, just the potential and the talent he has. I just feel like it's so evident, Alex. And he's a guy I'm really excited to. I just feel like as spring ball goes on, like whether it's a media viewing session or maybe we won't get to see it, but like at some point, someone's going to step up to the microphone and go, "Man, Isaac Wilson made one play today that, whoa." I just think that's what's going to happen soon.
And I think at the end of the day, it's really important to have Isaac Wilson and Brandon Rose, because I think they're just going to bring the best out of each other. Yes. They're obviously going to be competing neck and neck for that number 2 spot. They're both going to want to be that number 2 on the depth chart. And so having that competition, I think, is just going to breed excellence for both of them, and it's just going to bring out the best out of both of them. And so as long as Brandon Rose and Isaac Wilson are there competing for that second spot, I believe both of them are going to develop really well, because they're going to want to kind of outcompete each other in practice.
Yeah, competition, playing time. All these guys are up here because they want to play. They want to be in a position to help this team get better, to grow. And being QB2 is a lot better than being QB3, because it's one step closer to seeing time on the field and just getting that opportunity if you come in. And we know how important the backup quarterback spot is. Yes, last year was massively important, even 2 years ago. If Bryson Barnes doesn't win that game against Washington State on the road in Pullman, Utah does not get to go to the Pac-12 championship again. Oregon goes instead of them. So that's where the backup quarterback spot, such a key position too. And another thing that's really exciting too is we're going to get more of the running backs, getting the growth in, like getting that group going more. We get to hear from Mekhi Bernard a little bit, always an entertaining presser when he's at the mic, and Mitchell, what he's already shown in flashes too. That's another position that there were some questions like, okay, what would the running back room kind of look like? And maybe there's even more questions because of how many guys look good, but I like that. That's the problem, is how many guys have looked awesome. I think that's a great issue to have. Wouldn't you agree?
And I think running back coach Quentin Ganther mentioned that too. He said, "Hey, this is not a bad thing to have where you don't know who your number 1 is," because right now he mentioned Mitchell was doing well. A lot of I think Ludwig and Whittingham also name dropped Mitchell as to saying that they were impressed with him during the first week of spring ball. Mekhi Bernard has come in with a new mindset. There was conversations where he was saying like, "Hey, I fell out of love with football, but I had to like really step back and kind of learn to fall in love with the sport again." And it sounds like from his perspective and from the coach's perspective that he has bought into the program again. He has bought into football again. And he loves being out there. He can't wait to be out there in pads and get back to the fall and be able to play in games again. And so it's just you're just bringing out the competition, and that's just going to bring out the best out of your players. And so super excited to see Micah Bernard and what he's able to do this season.
It's going to be fun, as with all the running backs too, and can't wait to see what week 2 of spring ball holds for the Utah football team. We'll be breaking it all down here at Locked On Utes as well. Then speaking of breaking things down, got to talk about the Utah men's basketball team. Yes, the season ending was a little bit of disappointment. At least you can turn to the Pac-12 and regular season portion of it. They're not done. The NIT has arrived for Utah, and they're going to be hosting a game. We got to discuss that in one moment. But first, I want to talk to you all about one of the sponsors of our episode of Locked On Utes, our friends at FanDuel. Say goodbye to busted brackets, because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney. Whether you're betting on big upsets or one seeds, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Speaking of betting on it all, Alex, is there an early team you're leaning on that you're like, I'm thinking they're going to be in the championship spot when I put the pen on my bracket?
I'm going to go with the safe answer and say UConn.
Oh, repeating. I don't know if that, I know they're the #1 seed. I don't know if it's safe, because isn't that crazy to think about repeating?
They look very good coming into the tournament. But I think at the end of the day, like it's almost impossible to repeat in this tournament.
I'm going to go with North Carolina, and maybe I'm being a little biased, but I really like RJ Davis. The experience they have, Baycott is a beast. I'm leaning Carolina. However you guys are leaning, make sure you head over to FanDuel today. Also want to talk to you all about another sponsor on our episode of Locked On Utes, our friends at UCCU. Here's some exciting news. UCCU has just elevated their checking accounts by enhancing them with more benefits, more savings, and more online protections than ever before. A lot more. Paired with the most advanced and comprehensive mobile banking tools, Elevated Checking is a must-have financial product packed with lifestyle security and financial benefits. The lifestyle benefits alone include cell phone protection, roadside assistance, telehealth, with 24/7 access to licensed health professionals with zero copay and exclusive savings on travel, shopping, and dining. And Elevated Checking is also free when you do any one of the following. Use your debit or credit card 15 times or more a month, or make a monthly direct deposit of $500 or more, or even maintain an average daily balance of $1,500. Otherwise, UCCU Elevated Checking is only $6 a month. You can visit UCCU.com to open an Elevated Checking account online or stop by any branch to open an account today. UCCU, love where you bank. And speaking of brackets, want to bring that up a little bit as well. Once again, as Locked On College Basketball bracket breakdown show is now available on Locked On College Basketball Podcast. Experts Andy Patton and Isaac Shade will break down their brackets and discuss everything you need to know to fill out a winning bracket and prepare for this year's NCAA tournament. Find the Locked On Bracket Breakdown now on the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Now, I'm not sure if on that show they're going to be talking about the NIT, but if they were, they would be discussing the Utah men's basketball team as they are officially in the NIT. I know it's disappointing. Of course, we all wanted Utah to actually make the tournament, but I think getting into the NIT is still a big thing, right? Utah wanted to get into the NIT even last year, and they didn't. So there's still a step in the right direction for this team, and they are a 2-seed in their bracket, right? They ended up Villanova's a 1-seed there. They're going to take on UC Irvine this Tuesday. Game will be at 11 p.m. Eastern time, so 9 p.m. Mountain time over there. And this is a running Utes team that, look, once again, regular season didn't go their way. Is it a disappointment to be at the NIT compared to where they were? Yes. It's still postseason basketball, and I think the feeling we all have about Utah basketball would go away at least a little bit, be negated if they were able to get some big wins, right? Like if you take on an Iowa, a UCF, like a Villanova, even if Kansas State gets the upset, right? Like taking them out in your bracket. Like if you can get some wins against some of these established programs, Villanova is the 1 seed. Like if Utah could beat Villanova, like that just has me feeling more excited about the future.
100%. I think when it comes to Utah and then in the NIT this season, it's just going to be about making a deep run, getting some good wins, getting some big wins, as you mentioned. That's going to make the difference between what I believe will a disappointing season and hey, this has been a decent season. Let's build on it. Right.
Yes.
I think not making it to the big dance, not making it to March Madness and the NCAA tournament. Yes, it's disappointing. However, you still have this opportunity to go play, as you mentioned, go play postseason basketball, get a couple of big wins, and kind of turn the momentum a little bit and say, hey, we're going to carry this into next season. Let's build on it, and maybe make an NCAA tournament appearance your goal for next season.
Definitely be the goal, and they got a better chance to reach it, I think, if they can get this valuable experience and generate more optimism around the men's team and program, just because while it was there for so much of the year, it feels like it's not right now. So going to be interesting to see how I watch it play out for them. Also just lucky we get to more Brandon Carlson before his time as a Utah Ute comes to an end. One of the best careers we've seen in recent memory by someone for the running Utes. So fun to watch Utah's all-time leader in blocks get a few more opportunities. Davon Smith, tons of fun stuff with the Utah men's basketball team too. Alex, tell everyone where they can hit you up and follow at as well if they want to hear some more of your content that you have coming up.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram and on Twitter. The name is right there under me at Napoles Alex. From Utes to college football to NFL to soccer, RSL, and everything in between, and basketball. We'll cover it there for KSL Sports. And yeah, you can find my content there.
You stay busy, sir. That's why we greatly appreciate you taking some time to join us here. Thanks, Alex.
Hey, absolutely. Thanks for the invite. Let's do it again sometime.
We definitely will. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Utes. Make sure you guys fill out your brackets. We'll be talking about, as it pertains to the women's team, a little more on the men's team tomorrow's show. And of course, all things Utah football related. We look forward to having you join us then.